Hello, and this is The Thing About Cars, finally back in the studio after a short hiatus and going to a few different car shows, and hopefully you've enjoyed those episodes, and we welcome your feedback and your thoughts on that kind of thing, and hopefully you can join us at other car shows in and around the Southeast over the next several months, since it is now, I think it is totally car show season, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yes.
we were talking a second ago about the possibility of doing a motorcycle episode.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And you could wrangle us some guests, and you know people.
We didn't do a show.
Oh, we didn't do it.
Uh-oh.
I'm out of practice. All right, so you can tell it's been a while because I'm forgetting to do the intro. Around the table we have
Ben.
and
Tim.
Becca.
and I'm Mickey. As always, we are recording in Strongbox West, as always, here in beautiful Atlanta, hot Atlanta.
Hot Lanta.
Hot Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, back on topic. We were talking about the possibility of doing a motorcycle episode or episodes.
Yeah, it would not be a bad idea because, we all use the road together. We all have to be conscious of each other. I do feel, as a motorcyclist myself, that the car driving public could stand to be a little more aware and educated.
Yeah.
But, they're just fun, and they have engines and wheels. So
They have
they're-
engines and wheels, and we're
Yeah,
called The
they're-
Thing About Cars, but I still think
Well, two wheels.
anything with a motor and wheels should count.
True. But as far as what Ben said, yes, I agree. Car drivers, truck drivers, all of them need a lot more education on it. But there's an awful lot of motorcycle riders
Oh,
out
absolutely
there
agree.
that need some education as
Absolutely.
well. So
Oh
it's
my God, that's true.
everybody.
Learn how to play nice together.
Yeah, we don't. We're running with scissors all amok out there.
Well, I don't know about other parts of the country. I mean, it seems to me that, and we'll have to save this. We're starting to bleed into the topic for that episode, but it seems to me that there are two kinds of motorcycle riders: folks who are ultra safety conscious and very much up on riding etiquette, and everyone else who just wants to be a hot shot with the crotch rocket. And
Yeah, well, I think another part of that dichotomy, too, is you have some who actually want to be riding a motorcycle and others for whom it's just the cheapest adrenaline source. If they could get an F-16 for the same money, they'd be doing that instead.
okay, well, let's pick that up again. Let's make it a point to do some motorcycle stuff. And if any of our listeners would be interested in such a thing or have ideas for that kind of a show, please write to us. You can find us, as always, on the web, thethingaboutcars.com. I'm looking at our agenda, and Tim, being our newcomer for today, and hopefully not just once, but hopefully you'll come back for several episodes. The first thing says Tim needs a new car. Is that true?
Yes. For the last 25 years, I've been driving a 1993 Nissan NX 2000.
Wow.
And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a small egg-shaped coupe based on a Nissan Sentra. But some would say prettier, some would say uglier. And it had its final accident a while back, and so now I've been having to drive the Chevrolet Astro minivan.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, in all of its Astro glory. Yes,
Astro
exactly.
glory.
Yes.
That's better than Astro Glide. I'm sorry. Can I get away with that?
We can do that, but we'll have
Sure,
to talk
just
about
once.
that in the
All
Not
right.
Safe for Work episode.
Right. I think you got away with it. But so yeah, I've been wanting something else in the general sedan region, something that's semi-sporty, fuel efficient, that I can fit in, being
Yes.
6'5".
See, I almost tried to sell him on the G8 until
Yeah.
he said fuel efficient.
Fuel efficient, forget it. So let's go back for a minute. Your old Nissan
Yes.
was not a stock Nissan. You had done quite a bit of work to it.
Yeah, I had from the engine side, I had put in cams, a light and flywheel, reprogrammed ECU for the motor, full header and catback exhaust system, intake. It goes on and on and on.
Right.
Done different springs and struts. So
So do you want to be able to do similar things to the new car?
maybe not as much. I don't need to be as loud with my exhaust anymore. I don't need to be as harsh riding as since I'm on the other side of 50 now.
They can't see us. Don't admit to it.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yes.
We're all in our 20s. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's in metric years. That's
Metric.
different. Right.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I like that. Metric years.
Yes. I'll show you the conversion factors later. But yeah, so, obviously wanting something that's got decent fuel economy, you're generally looking at a smaller vehicle, fitting a 6'5" body into it. Always not the best to come up with a good driving position.
Yes.
So, yeah, I keep going. Maybe this, maybe that.
Yep.
So.
Well, I have an immediate suggestion for a car that might fit you, but I want to hear what the others have to say.
He likes to work on cars. I maintain I can sell the G8 to him.
As long as I can find a fuse, right?
Oh, well, see, that was the thing. If you've been listening to us, you might know a little bit about.
Becca's had some serious problems with this thing.
It's holding up my garage. Yeah.
Yeah. Your 150 mile an hour shelf.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. So what did you had something turning over there, Ben? Are you still trying to?
Oh, no, I was just thinking, well, Tim's a bright guy. He can probably engineer it out of any problem that thing has.
Except like electronics, not my forte.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's why you
Becca's
have us.
forte,
That's my
actually.
thing.
Okay.
So do you have cars in mind already as a replacement?
I've been toying with BMWs from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Too bad Ronnie's not here to comment on that.
Right, but
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes, and I was going like, I like them from a performance standpoint. I also know that they can be repair intensive. I understand parts are generally affordable for them, but having to rebuild the cooling system every 75,000 miles sounds a bit absurd. Something in the Mazda 3 region also.
I was going to say, I've been hearing good things about the Mazda 3s and the Mazda 6. Those were the first things that came to my mind. And the new Mazda 6s just look
I was about
like
to say.
a ton of fun.
I was trying to remember what I saw. I saw an advertisement for a new Mazda and couldn't remember the model of it. And it looked pretty, pretty nice.
Yeah. And I should also say, I'm looking in the used car territory.
Yes, used car.
Oh, yeah.
Probably something under $10,000.
Right. Well, the latest generation of Mazda 6, I think you should be able to find one, but the Mazda 3s certainly.
The only thing I would caution about with the 6 is that the tall guy ergonomics may not be the best.
Really?
I was in one as a rental car last year, I think, and the headroom was decent. Legroom, yeah, okay, but the door's a little small, and being all long and lanky as I am, I had the seat way back, and the steering wheel telescoped out enough for a comfortable reach, and so the gap between the door jamb and the steering wheel getting in and out got a little tricky. But these Kodo generation Mazdas really have kind of small doors. They've gone a little backward as far as accommodating us bigger folks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Preach on, tall brother. That's it.
Right.
Well, and I've actually seen quite a few people over 6 feet tall cram themselves into Mustangs, and it's generally the SN95 generation that I've seen. Right. So like the one that I have. And I ask every one of them, how do you even fit in there comfortably? But they always say, I fit in there fine.
Right.
Yeah. I sat in a new Mustang at Petit Le Mans. That's where I go to test out cars. And I do fit in one of those semi-decently. I mean, heck, the old NX 2000 was a small, low car.
Mm-hmm.
But you fit.
Well, it had the T-tops, so worst comes to worst, I could take out the T-top and...
Have your head
There you
sticking
go,
out.
yeah.
Right, like Dino on the Flintstones.
Image.
Yeah.
Right. Or Shaq in a Porsche.
Right. Yes. or Bubba Smith in a Honda Civic.
But the previous-
That's driving the back seat. That's different.
I will mention, though, the previous generations of Mazda 3 you'd be probably okay with.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a 2013 and a 2007 at home, and I don't have any problem with either one.
Okay. That's...
And I'm sure Honda's been doing some things lately. In fact, there was a Honda, I can't remember which one it was, one of the few cars that I actually had to move the seat up to fit.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been in a Honda made in the last dozen years at least, but I know the older ones I've been in have all been A-okay for tall people.
Yes.
Right. And, I know I fit well in a current generation Mini Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Had one as a rental car and at a track day. But again, that from a reliability standpoint, I have my questions about them. They tend to be feast or famine, I think.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Oh, go ahead, Becca.
Sorry, I was just going to say with Mini Coopers, I would personally have to rip out the entire interior and do it over again.
Why?
They're cute on the outside, the inside. That's a whole other story. Ben, what were you trying to say?
Oh, well, I was going to say, too, it just occurred to me that one of my favorite cars when I'm out there in my road warrior life, when I can snag one at the airport, is the current Maxima. Very good tall guy ergonomics.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fun to drive.
Yeah, I've rented one of a much older generation, maybe a 2000 generation or so.
Yeah.
That and again, ended up doing a track day with it.
Awesome.
And I remember just understeering like a pig.
Sure. Well, if any of our listeners have any advice about cars for tall people and that might meet Tim's criteria, please write to us. You can find the conversation on our Facebook page. The Thing About Cars is easily searchable on Facebook, or just as usual, send us an email via our website, and we'll definitely talk about that in a future episode if you got good suggestions for Tim. The next thing on our agenda is driving for fuel economy. Ben, is that yours?
No.
Did you write that?
I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tim wrote that up there. Cool.
Don't
I
drive
I
like
put
me.
it up there. Just was wondering if anyone was wondering how to get better fuel economy in their average drive.
I'm actually working on a short write-up about it. I can't call it an article because it's really just a series of paragraphs. It's not really anything like no true journalistic integrity or anything like that. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, I subscribe to a couple different websites, or I should say forums, that teaching one on modifying your car for better fuel economy.
Oh.
And that was something I was going to say, because a lot of people skip through that. They talk about your speeds and all this, but that's what I've done with the Mustang, and why she continues to get better gas mileage than any of my other ones is the modifications that you can do to your car.
Right.
because I was thinking the best modification you can make is to the driver.
Yeah. The most important nut is
yeah.
the one behind the wheel.
Right.
Right. That's it.
The one that connects the wheel to the seat.
Right. Yes. The seat, the wheel seat interface.
We'll
Yes.
see.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of people, I guess when you're taught in driver's ed, avoid those jackrabbit starts,
Right.
back in the day, what people don't realize about an internal combustion engine that is basically that it's a big air pump.
Oh, yeah.
And when the throttle is closed, it's having to work harder to pull in the air. Right. So actually you get better fuel economy with, I would say, moderate acceleration, with, a larger throttle opening, but not full throttle. That's
Right.
no more than 2/3 to 3/4 throttle, and keeping the revs as low as possible. So, you don't want to lug the motor, don't want to be under, let's say, 1,500 RPM,
Right.
but don't want to go over, let's say, about 3,000 RPM,
But there's
depending
some
on your car.
modification, well, at least with older cars, for that
Mhm.
low RPM, and so many comments. Yeah, the
Yeah.
wide open throttle, that they don't give you enough cable anymore. Well, geez, I'm talking about old cars again. Cars
Right.
don't even have throttle cables anymore.
Right.
Right.
It senses how hard you're pushing on the accelerator and calculates, well, I think they want to be going this fast, so I'm going to give them this much throttle in this gear, which is going to equate to this RPM on the motor,
Right.
and it does all that great calculation for you.
Rip out
But-
the ECU. Install
Well,
cable.
yeah. Or have fun passing your emissions test with that, though. That's-
Right.
Yeah.
Move to non-emission county. Sorry. Should have put that first.
Right. Yeah.
So for driving for fuel economy, when you write that up there, I immediately think of all the things you could do to the car, not in terms of modifying the engine, but in terms of modifying the driving behaviors. Everything from correcting your tire pressure to washing and waxing a car helps a car drive better. It's a nominal difference, but it still adds up over time, I think.
Definitely.
Mythbusters calculated that you could boost your mileage by something like 40 miles an hour if you, A, drive the speed limit, 2, correct your tire pressures, 3, wash and wax the car. They used some sort of funky tape thing to change the surface of one part of the car. I don't know what that's all about.
But not necessarily per hour.
Oh,
No, 40 miles per gallon. Right. Yes.
Gallon. Did I say per hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another test I saw on some TV channel recently where they took these 3 automotive journalists, people who had never met the cars they were going to drive. They're just people who, were entertaining and had opinions. They put them in these little Mitsubishi, whatever the little itty bitty hatchback that looks like a rice cooker is that they make now. They put them in 3 of those.
Yep.
And they drove from, I think it was Las Vegas to Los Angeles, or maybe the other direction, between those 2 cities anyway. And it was a MPG challenge, and they were allowed something like an hour before the thing started to do what they could to the cars. And they're out there with blue painter's tape, taping over all the body panel gaps, over the wheels. Some of them were experimenting with pieces of cardboard covering part of the grill and things like that. And that's something that the average person's not going to want to do every day.
No.
Right.
But it is interesting.
And that was some of the thoughts crossing my mind when I was driving back and forth between Georgia and Michigan recently, was for things like this, what can I put on the
Right.
front of my car to make it more aerodynamic?
Right. And actually, there are a lot of people who do put a grill block, which, depending on how hard of a load you're putting on the car.
Have you met me?
How hard of a load is that? That's
Well, that might be for a different podcast.
okay.
Becca's foot is very heavy.
Yes, but where you block off part of the grill opening to get the air to move around that big
Well, it's a
parachute
Jeep,
in the
so
front.
it's,
All right. Oh,
it's a
well,
brake.
Yeah, okay. That's
So, make angles and, what can I do to
That always worries me. I mean, you're talking about putting in a grill block, and that always worries me. It's like, yes, I know it's a complete affront to aerodynamics, right? It's an insult to driving with aerodynamic efficiency. However, I'm always paranoid about blocking it off.
right. And well, it's depends on where your car is getting most of its actual airflow to the radiator
Right.
from.
Oh yeah.
A lot of General Motors vehicles have traditionally pulled the air actually up from underneath, as much as in through the front grill opening.
Yeah.
And how hard, like I said, how hard you're driving the car. If you're just cruising down the highway, just you and your sedan, you don't need a whole lot of airflow. If you're towing a trailer going up a mountain, yes, you're going to need all the airflow that thing can get, and you would want to remove the grill block. So it's a very circumstantial type deal, and you need something that's going to be removable. You don't want to weld it in place.
Right.
And not that you can weld anything to a plastic bumper cover, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
So what else can you do to a car to improve your fuel
A
economy?
big thing that's being done in most modern vehicles now is that there is a belly pan up underneath the
gravel pan.
A what?
Yeah.
A gravel pan?
Gravel? No, well, a belly pan.
Okay.
Meaning that it's a flat surface up underneath the bottom of the car.
Oh.
And
Well, some of those are gravel pans, and different people have different names, and there's different
But I
sizes.
think Tim's talking about something that covers the entire underbody.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Of
Of
course.
that's there for aerodynamics.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can, come up with various solutions for your own car made out of what's a very popular material is called Coroplast, which is basically plastic cardboard. And so it's semi-rigid and flat.
You just got to find a way to tack it up under the car.
And
Right, yes.
heat resistant, but then I would be concerned about dissipation of heat from underneath the vehicle.
Yeah. But
Various, it depends.
the great theory of aerodynamic flow through any type of orifice is the area of intake equals the area of exhaust. So as much of a grill opening you've got, the air needs that much room to find its way out. And a lot of times it's through the wheel arches, or of course you have to leave some room around the exhaust anyway. So there's plenty of room usually.
I was just thinking, I like the idea. Why not just put in a big sheet of the plastic and louver it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's except when you get so close to the exhaust system, you need some gap when you're in plastic world.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, make it removable, because it sucks working on a car that has one that isn't so removable.
Right.
Another very simple, I don't even know if you'd call it a modification as much as an accessory. A guy I knew who was kind of into the hypermiling thing, he had a little digital gauge that stuck by double-sided sticky tape onto his dashboard. That was connected to his OBD port.
Yeah, it's called the scan gauge.
Yes, and he and I don't remember what criteria he said he was working with, whether he was going for a high or a low reading, but he said he was driving to his manifold vacuum reading. He was using that to guide his right foot, and he was getting really stellar MPG.
Interesting.
So, what were you calling that? Hyper mileage?
Hypermiling.
Yeah.
Okay, so am I hypomiling? Is that
Yes,
that
you are
my
in a Jeep,
driving
yes.
style?
Right.
So Mythbusters covered the whole hypermiling thing. And
Yeah.
that's where they figured out that you could actually squeeze a lot of extra miles out of the average gallon of gas.
They also did a very interesting test on aerodynamics of pickup trucks.
They did. Oh, yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
something I should pay attention to.
Like tailgate, no tailgate, those meshy tailgate covers or not, and that was pretty interesting too. That
Turns
affected
out that
MPG.
keeping the gate closed is actually better for MPG.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since all the drag is created by the cab, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about grill blocking. We've talked about underbody. What's the word?
Blocking as well.
Seamlessness. Right. What else can a person do?
As far as modifying the vehicle, an engine tune-up is all, making sure that your vehicle is in proper running order.
Yes.
Proper balance of air fuel mixture. I'm trying to remember all the various things that I had done, but I had put in a chip that balanced out both economy and and power.
Right.
So I was looking for a middle of the road, and
and there's depending on the age of car, there's certain things you can tune and tweak with. I had an older car with a fuel injection system that you could add a fuel pressure regulator that if you tuned the chip in the ECU around that, a higher fuel pressure going through your fuel injectors offers better atomization, as long as the computer knows that it's now working with higher fuel pressure and is going to keep the injectors open for a shorter amount of time to give you the same actual mass of fuel going in.
The diesel engine world had to deal with that because I think at one time they were only driving 500 PSI through a diesel fuel line, and then the modern engines have like 4 times as much.
Oh, yeah.
Something like 4 or 5 times as much PSI.
Right, with the common rail systems they have now. But that's not really that's more mechanically from the factory.
Yes.
It's a set deal.
Right. No, it's something that,
a lot of this stuff that I guess I know is more old school. The stuff that I think of on a Fox body Mustang, you can use a screwdriver and adjust your idle. On the SN95 like I had to actually buy a gear. Again, on my current one, a 15-cent plumbing washer extended my throttle cable. It's the tricks of the old cars that are just so much more difficult to do nowadays.
Right. Like one of the simplest tricks also would be, just lowering your idle speed. As long as your engine runs correctly still at the lower idle speed. Yeah. But, with a lot of modern systems, your engine is, pre-programmed to idle at a given RPM, and it's going to try to keep raising that idle speed.
Yep.
So,
but that was the screwdriver on the Fox body. You just go out there. It's right over by the throttle. You take your screwdriver to this little screw, and you can adjust the idle. Yeah. That is why I miss old cars.
There's something to be said for that.
Right. And then now you do as much as you with a laptop as you used to do with a screwdriver. So
that's no fun. You don't get your hands dirty with a laptop.
Well, even with the new ones, a lot of the stuff that you can't adjust, that the factory settings there for a reason. How much flexibility you can get in that is anybody's guess.
Well, what we've learned from this episode is Becca likes to get her hands dirty.
Oh yes.
Well, come on, it's
we all do.
Playing in the dirt by watching YouTube. That is no fun.
Right. So that's all we have time for today. I think we should pick up this topic though in a future episode. I think the mileage thing is something we could easily write about, and I think more people would benefit from hearing that kind of thing. So,
well, maybe it would also be good to look at some of the just general, not make model specific performance chips.
Yes.
Because a lot of them offer either economy modes or are for economy over performance. Right. So it might be worth talking about as well.
Right.
Since everything is so much is primarily computer driven now, that might be a good thing.
And so if anyone out there has actually done this or knows anything about using any off-the-shelf solutions to improving your gas mileage, please write to us. Please find us on Facebook as usual. And let us know what you've learned. That's all we've got time for today. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening as always. And this has been The Thing About Cars, recording in Strongbox West. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Right. Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.